Welcome to this episode of Racing Dean, and today we're going to be talking about how to make your go-karting footage look fast.
He's been pushed off the racetrack. That guy's going backwards. Must be a mechanical fault. He's passed him on the exit. Do you think he can win this?
So coming back to the question of how do you make your footage look fast, we're going to be exploring a few different concepts. We're going to be having a look at field of view, we're going to be having a look at parallax, some visual effects you can apply such as vibrations, but also grade, the color, the intensity actually makes a difference. We're going to be having a look at sound, both in terms of the engine, implicitly there'll be music, and finally there's actually your voice. Alex Van Gien, a fellow competitor at GXUK, thinks that I'm not excited enough in my videos when I'm talking. To me, it already feels like I'm at 11 out of 10. He wants to turn it up to 15 for me so that I can be even more energized. So with that, let's get into the main body of the video. So you are about to see footage from 3 different race weekends in 3 different go-karts, and we're going to start off in the Club 100 at Little Rissington using the GoPro Max. Now with Club 100 you have to put the camera on the nose cone, which is a bit restrictive, but what is really handy is understanding the field of view. Now I've zoomed in and we've got what's called a narrow field of view, which is we're looking at more of the stuff in the center, and this actually slows down the footage. Now we are wide field of view and we can see more of that stuff on the edges, and it's the stuff that flies past out of the corner of your eye that gives the impression of speed. This dovetails into another phenomenon called parallax, which is, as you can see from these train images, the stuff nearby you moves past quickly, whereas the stuff in the distance is slower, and that's what you're achieving with the field of view, is having that stuff on the side. So we've now jumped into Premiere Pro, which is necessary. It's necessary for me to do what I want to with the GoPro Hero footage. So it's a bit of a palaver, to be honest. You have to drag it in. You have to get a plug-in which is called GoPro FX Reframe. You then have to apply that to the footage, and now you can start to do the 360 magic with it. You can see that I've got that menu on the left: pan, tilt, rotate, lens curve and zoom. And the first thing that we're doing is playing with that zoom in and out, which effectively sets the field of view. But not all of it, because there's also the lens curve, so you can pull the lens curve in and out, and you can also tilt the footage, so you can go upside down if you want to, or look at the sky, or just plain old-fashioned in front, and straighten it up left to right if you want. The camera's not quite central on the Club 100, so straighten it up a touch, and you can essentially fiddle with the footage to get it looking good. I like to be able to see my feet because that's a bit more action. Unfortunately we can't see the hands because they're behind the camera out of sight. But once you're happy with it, and once you've got that wide field of view, you start to enjoy the parallax, and it's the parallax that gives the impression of speed. So now we're going to bring this optimized shot together with some more angles, so you can cut to the rear facing view on the GoPro Max, which is great. So we've cut backwards, cut forwards, got a nice little moment there where he's gone sideways. And we can do other things with the rear view mirror as well. We can actually bring it in like a mirror, like I've just done then. So we can mix up the footage to make up for the fact that the camera doesn't see the hands. So what we've done there is we've brought it all together, we dropped in the rear view mirror on the beat, we've added some tunes, and now we've got everything firing together, as well as some on-site action that would end up in me losing the place. So this time we're out in the GX UK at Landau in Wales, and we've got two cameras. We've got the Cambox V3, which is in my helmet, and it's kind of a little bit shaky, which is great for a bit of sensation of speed, but sometimes a tiny bit too shaky. And then we've got the side camera, which is the GoPro, but this time we're using it in hero mode, not max mode, so I don't have that rear view mirror. So the very first thing is which audio to work with. So I had these two choices and I can knock them in using this M button here. So let's have a listen. How that sounds to me is like one is a bit lower and one is a bit higher, and actually just the helmet cam, the Cambox, is a bit muffled, but it does have that quite nice low end, whereas the GoPro has the nice high end. So in this case I'm just going to use both of them. What I would do though is just to have a quick look at the levels. So I'm just going to balance those levels a little bit just so that we're not peeking out of the top here. So that's a bit of hygiene. The next thing is the visor. Now if I just turn this off with the small eye, you can see this shape here is from the sticker inside my visor, and it bothers me slightly that it's a bit lopsided. Now there are fixes we could do for this, but then I made myself a little shape. So this shape here is a shape that I made in Figma, which is another program, and basically you can position it where you want it. I've given the shape a little shadow as well, so it has the feeling of the visor a little bit. So that's this kind of little shadow here just to make it a bit authentic. So if I toggle on and off the adjustment layer, we can see that without it, it's a bit dark. So what I've done is the adjustment layer is basically just a level of edits that I'm going to put on top. And you can see here that I've done things like I've changed the white balance to be somewhere where I wanted it. Probably the most important thing is the exposure. So I've brightened it up so that it feels a bit peppier, and I've also tweaked a bit with the saturation. So that's black and white, that's too much, and then just kind of bringing it down to where it feels about sensible. The next thing is what we call cutting to action. So you can see here that I've made a transition from the side cam to the main visor cam. And the reason why I've done it is because the side cam is on the right hand side. So whenever we pass something on the right, that's going to be quite good to use the right camera, because it's going to bring that thing quite close to the camera. The next thing is when to make the decision to cut back. And when I cut back, I was actually able to get a bit of shake. And I think that shake actually helps the footage. If I was to extend this ever so slightly and to play it again, maybe it just has a little bit less action. So by just timing that cut on that shake, I think it has a bit more oomph. And similarly, I've decided to use the right hand engine mounted camera here. I used it there because in that complex of a right, left, right, there's two rights, and as we said before, the camera's on the right, so it kind of picks up the curb and the grass and everything for that sensation of speed, because it's really close to those features. Also, only on the Cambox, it was a bit too shaky, so a bit of shake gives you a sensation of speed, but too much shaky and it's just difficult to watch. So the GoPro is just a bit smoother through there because of its inbuilt stabilisation. Our third and final piece of footage is from the DMAX at Daytona, Milton Keynes. This time we've got the GoPro strapped to my helmet and we've got it in max mode. So we do have front and back, but because the helmet's right there, we can't really use the back. but we can experiment with how it looks going forwards, and we can also use a bit of pan, and we can also do the grading and the music as we've discussed. So let's have a closer look. So even though I've just got the GoPro Hero on the front, I've actually still got it in 360 mode, which allows us to do some of those edits that we've seen before. So if I turn on the FX reframe, we can see here that I've got the zoom. So if I zoom in more, I can see what's going on ahead, but I don't get the hands unless I come out a bit, and then also don't get that field of view unless I come all the way out. So it's just about finding the bit that kind of feels about right in terms of realism. And then the other thing we can do is we can actually start to do some fake vibrations. The image stabilisation in the GoPro is really good, but a trick that I sometimes do to add a bit of kind of extra energy is a horizontal vibration. And actually what I want to look for is something called horizontal blur. Directional blur. So now I've got directional blur. Let's have a look at the blur. Probably the blur length is the first thing. So I've gone for blur length 30, and then if we just quickly go in here and chop up some frames. Delete that bit, delete that bit, delete that bit, delete that bit, and maybe then just copy these again, see how that looks. So you saw there, it gave me that kind of rumble strip. So what I tend to like to do in that, to use these, I actually like to use these when I'm actually going to skip on a bit of the footage. So let's find the start finish line, because that's a kind of quite a good checkpoint. Or maybe just this, just change in tarmac there, that'd do. Okay, so there it is. Just zoom in a touch, just go back a frame. About there, wasn't it? Okay, so I'm going to chop out that bit of footage, delete, delete, ripple delete, then I'm going to move this stuff on top of that join. And it's kind of masked my transition in a way. So what I then want to do is put some text on top of it, and maybe actually put the text underneath the motion blur as well, and say something like fast forward, and then we'll have a nice effect. So let's see how all of those little tips come to fruition. So in the end, I decided not to join up the footage exactly one lap later. I thought I'd skip further into the race just to skip a bit more dead time, because when you edit footage, half of the art is actually not showing the boring stuff, and I did have 4 or so boring laps, so I've skipped it further forwards. Let's have a look at the final result. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. We had footage from Little Rissington, from Landau in Wales, and then also from Daytona, Milton Keynes, and I wanted to show you the difference between some of the cameras, how to edit between them, how that can create some energy, how to add in some different effects, such as how you can adapt that kind of field of view and make sure that you get that parallax of things kind of going past you nice and quickly. So I hope that was useful. I hope you enjoyed my calm or energized tones, the beats, the energetic house music that I've overlaid on these videos, and I hope to see you at the next race day.